Welcome back to the darkness. We often think of hotels as sanctuaries, places of luxury, relaxation, and escape. We lock the door, slide the deadbolt, and assume we are safe. But we forget that hotels are transient spaces, hundreds of strangers sleeping under one roof, separated only by thin walls, and a lock that is easier to pick than you think. When you check into a room, you never really know who stayed there before you, or who is watching you from the lobby. Tonight, I have two terrifying, true stories that will make you double-check the deadbolt on your door next time you travel. One involves a family reunion that turned into a near-fatal kidnapping attempt, and the other reveals a gruesome discovery made by a housekeeper in a high-end suite. So, pull up the covers, put your headphones on, turn off the lights, and let's get into it. I have always been the type of person who sleeps with a nightlight on. Call me a coward, call me paranoid. But after what happened to me 15 years ago, I think I have earned the right to be afraid of the dark. At the time, I was just a naive girl from Minnesota, approaching my 16th birthday. My life was boring, safe, and sheltered. So when my parents suggested I fly out to Southern California for a massive family reunion, I was ecstatic. It was my chance to escape the cold and finally bond with my cousins, Jennifer, Belinda, and Stormy. When I arrived in Los Angeles, I felt like the ugly duckling. My cousins were these gorgeous, sun-kissed California girls with bleached blonde hair and deep tans. I was pale, awkward, and clearly a tourist. But we looked alike enough to be sisters. Same blue eyes, same facial structure. My uncle, trying to be the cool dad, rented us the massive bridal suite at the hotel where the reunion was held. It was fancy, too fancy for a group of teenagers, and that luxury went to our heads. We came up with this stupid, dangerous game. We decided to tell everyone we were sisters. In town for my bachelorette party, I was the bride, and they were my bridesmaids. It seemed harmless, just a way to feel older, cooler. We spent days by the pool giggling as Stormy, who was only 14, convinced grown men she was 19. We felt invincible. We didn't realize that while we were playing a game, someone else was hunting. That evening after dinner, the game went too far. We were in the lobby, dressed up, feeling like adults. We caught the attention of two men sitting near the bar. They were older, maybe early 30s, handsome in a rugged way, but their eyes, I remember their eyes being cold, calculating. We sat with them, we laughed. We lied about our ages. They played along perfectly, too perfectly. They didn't ask the usual questions. They asked about our room number, where our parents were, how long we were staying, when Stormy, in her naive confidence, invited them up to our suite. My stomach dropped. A primal instinct kicked in. I pulled Stormy aside and whispered, "My uncle is in the room next door. If he hears male voices, we are dead." It was a lie, but it worked. We left the men in the lobby. Their smiles faded instantly as we walked away. They didn't look disappointed, they looked angry. We went back to the suite, changed into pajamas, and stayed up until 2 a.m. talking about boys. Finally, while we turned off the lights, the room was pitch black. And then we heard it. Click, clack, click, the doorknob. It wasn't a gentle knock. Someone was aggressively jiggling the handle, testing the weight of the door, trying to force the mechanism. I froze in my bed. "Is that you guys?" I whispered. "No," Jennifer replied, her voice trembling. Suddenly, Belinda sat up. "I will handle it," she said, clearly thinking it was a prank by one of our other cousins. "Belinda, don't!" I screamed, but it was too late. She unlocked the deadbolt and swung the door open. The hallway light flooded in, silhouetting a figure dressed entirely in black, wearing a ski mask. Before Belinda could even name, he lunged. He didn't speak. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed her by the waist and yanked her into the hallway. Belinda screamed. It wasn't a scream of surprise. It was the sound of pure terror. She kicked, scratched, fought with everything she had. But he was dragging her toward the elevators like a rag doll. Jennifer, Stormy, and I scrambled out of bed, cramming, running into the hallway barefoot. We saw him dragging her. The elevator doors were opening. "Dad, help!" Stormy shrieked. The door to the room next to ours flew open. My uncle charged out in his boxers, saw his daughter being abducted, and turned into a beast. He didn't run, he sprinted. He tackled the masked man just inches from the elevator. Fists flew. My uncle landed a solid punch to the attacker's temple. The man groaned, released Belinda, and shoved my uncle back. Realizing he had lost the element of surprise, the attacker scrambled for the stairwell and vanished into the darkness. The police arrived minutes later. The hotel was on lockdown, but the man was gone. Later that night, a detective sat us down. He told us something that shattered my world. He said, "Girls, those men in the lobby, they weren't interested in dating you. They were shopping." He explained that human traffickers look for specific types. We were 4 blonde, blue-eyed girls, lying about having no supervision, advertising that we were ready to party. We had made ourselves the perfect targets. They didn't care which one of us they took. To them, we were just products. I flew home the next morning. It has been 15 years, and sometimes, when I am in a hotel, I still check the lock 3, maybe 4 times before I can close my eyes. My mother is a strong woman. She escaped Vietnam as a refugee in the late 90s and built a life in Washington, D.C. from nothing. She worked as a housekeeper at a prestigious hotel near the capital. She didn't speak much English back then, but her smile was universal. Staff and guests loved her because she was so trustworthy and discreet. The manager always assigned her to the VIP suites. She cleaned for politicians, celebrities, and even boy bands. She thought she had seen it all, until she met Mr. M. Mr. M checked into the presidential suite, the most expensive room in the building. He was a ghost. He stayed for over 30 days, but never let a single person inside. The "Do Not Disturb" sign hung on his door like a warning. He paid his bill in cash, tipped generously, and kept to himself. And then, one Tuesday, he was just gone. He didn't check out. He didn't return his key. He simply vanished. After 3 days of unpaid room charges, the manager sent my mom up. "Just clean it out," he told her. "Get it ready for the next guest." Mom took her card up to the top floor. The hallway was silent. She swiped her key card. The lock beeped green, and she pushed the heavy door open. The first thing that hit her was the heat. The AC had been turned off. The second thing was the smell. It was thick, cloying, and sweet, like rotten meat mixed with heavy perfume. It made her gag instantly. She stepped inside. The suite was destroyed. Bottles were smashed against the walls. The mattress was overturned, and food was decaying on the tables. It looked like a maniac had lived there, but the smell was coming from the master bedroom. Mom covered her nose with her apron and walked toward the bedroom. The air grew heavier with every step. She looked around, expecting to find a dead animal or maybe a pile of garbage, but the room was empty, except for the walk-in closet. The door was slightly ajar. She pulled the closet door open. Sitting in the middle of the carpeted floor was a single cardboard moving box. It was taped shut, brown. Wet stains were seeping through the bottom of the box, soaking into the pristine white carpet. Flies were buzzing around it. My mom didn't want to touch it. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run. But she was a maid, and this was her job. She took out her box cutter and sliced through the tape. She opened the flaps. Time stopped. Inside the box, staring up at her with milky, clouded eyes, was the severed head of a young woman. Her mouth was taped shut. Her hair was matted with dried blood. My mom didn't scream. She couldn't. The shock took her voice away. She stumbled backward, tripping over her own feet, and crawled out of the room. She made it to the elevator before she blacked out. When she woke up, the hotel was swarming with FBI agents. It turned out Mr. M was using a stolen identity. The woman in the box was a high-end escort he had hired weeks ago. He had killed her, dismembered her, and left her behind like trash. My mother never cleaned another room. She quit that day. Even now, decades later, she cannot stand the smell of cardboard boxes. She says it reminds her of the day she opened a box and looked into the face of death. There is an old saying that hotels have a memory, that the walls absorb the energy of everyone who has ever stayed there. Most of us leave behind nothing more than a few wet towels and an unmade bed. But some people leave behind nightmares. So, the next time you walk into a hotel room and you catch a strange smell or you hear the doorknob jiggle in the middle of the night, remember these stories. You might not be as alone as you think. If you enjoyed these true terrifying tales, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the darkness grow. Let me know in the comments below, what is the scariest thing that has ever happened to you while traveling? I read every single comment. Until next time, stay safe and lock your doors.